Day 2 of UFC 214 Fight Week is officially in the books. We are at the UFC gym in La Mirada, California. So we've gone from Los Angeles to La Mirada. Tomorrow we'll be in Anaheim for the official weigh-ins. I'm standing next to Marc Raimondi. Of course, I am Ariel Helwani. Tons of fans here. The open workouts just wrapped up. We had media day earlier in the day. Marc, I think it's safe to say we have warmed up to 214 since yesterday. A lot more buzz, a lot more excitement, a lot more positive energy. Do you agree? Did you feel that as well as opposed to yesterday's press conference?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, just look around you. There's so many fans here. I don't know how many hundreds are here, maybe even over 1,000. I would say Southern California is really one of the hotbeds of MMA, of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there's a reason why the UFC comes to this area, and they're showing it right now.
So what stood out? What was the most interesting moment, interaction, workout, quote? What stood out the most today?
There's a lot going on today. Jon Jones didn't do a workout, but decided to spend pretty much an hour, half hour, signing almost every autograph he could. Daniel Cormier got up here and said, "My opponent didn't work out for you, but he signed autographs. I'm going to sign autographs and work out for you." So that's what he's actually doing right now. I think he's not too far away from us. Daniel Cormier is signing autographs just a few feet to our left here.
There he is, the champion. Anything Jon can do, he can do better. At least that's what he's trying to portray.
A little bit of a babyface turn for Daniel Cormier, and he got the fans behind him. They booed him initially, but when he said that, they were like, you know what? Yeah, we want autographs. We're gonna cheer this guy now.
He is the California guy, of course. I know he's from NorCal now. At least lives there and trains out of there at AKA. At first, though, there were some boos. By the end, it seems like everyone is by his side. Now, I thought it was interesting because they started with Jon Jones, and Jon said to us, you know, there's some mystique about me now. I don't want to show my hand. I don't want to work out. Do you buy that? Do you feel like that was actually a smart move on his part?
I think it's a smart move, but how much do you really show in a workout anyway, even if you do a light workout? And besides, Jon doesn't usually work out, even going back years past. He doesn't do it at UFC 197. I don't remember the last time he actually did a real workout. So I think that was just what Jon Jones does, and if it works for him, it works for him.
What do you make of Jon's demeanor? He seems obviously a lot more comfortable. He's not putting on a facade. He's being himself, but very relaxed as well. At times he gets fired up when talking about steroids and things like that. But overall, how would you describe his demeanor?
What was that quote that he had at the press conference? I think it was, "It's a freeing feeling knowing that a lot of people think that I'm a piece of shit." It's a very weird quote, right? And when I first heard it, I was like, wait, did I hear him correctly? But I think I kind of understand where he's coming from now, seeing him today. He's just comfortable with how people feel about him. He doesn't really care either way. He's not trying to be someone that he's not in order to appease people. If people feel like he's a jerk, fine. If people love him, fine. I think that you kind of saw that, and he's more comfortable in his own skin that way, and he was super loose today. I thought he was as loose as I've seen him in a fight week in a very long time.
On the flip side, Daniel has an intensity to him. He does seem very confident, but he is, like, when he's talking to us in the back, in the scrum, he's a lot more almost aggressive with his thoughts. Did you get that impression as well?
Yeah. Very different demeanors. It was like a contrast between Cormier and Jones. Whereas Jones was very loose, I feel like Cormier today, whereas yesterday they were very subdued, both of them. Today Cormier was really fired up, and he just talked to the fans. It was almost like he was cutting a pro wrestling promo. I know you hate me bringing pro wrestling into it, but it really felt that way. He was answering questions, but he was really delivering a very intense, fiery speech to the media right there. I don't know what that means for the fight yet. I mean, it's too hard to tell, but it's very interesting how Jones is very loose and Cormier seems much more intense today than he was.
Also of note, Cormier said that he only has 7.5 pounds left to cut. You spoke to his nutritionist, Tyler Minton, who's working with him for the first time. He was actually featured in our Chris Weidman weight cut video prior to UFC 210. What did Tyler tell you about this cut? Because I have to say, I saw him without his shirt yesterday prior to our interview, and he looked to be in phenomenal shape, and he doesn't look like he's, you know, weak or tired here as he's making his way down to 205.
Yeah, Tyler Minton said, and I don't think there's any hyperbole in here, some people might disagree, that Daniel Cormier could have a six-pack in a few weeks if he continued on this diet, which he won't, he said, because he's going to eat some Cajun food after the fight. But he's in great shape, and part of it is he only fought a few months ago. He only fought in April, so he didn't blow up in between. He's kind of stayed at a relatively manageable weight. Plus, with the new California Commission rules, a month ago when he went in for his medicals, he had to be a certain weight in order for the doctors to actually clear him. He had to be in the 220 to 25 range. So he was then. He's obviously a lot less than that right now. Of course, I think he said he's 7.5 away, which is really nothing for a guy his size. I mean, he can just sit in a hot bath if he really is only 7.5 left. So I think it's a combination between him just being super motivated for Jon Jones, not getting too big between the last fight and now, and also the CSAC regulations keeping him kind of in that range.
While Daniel Cormier was working out, I had a fascinating conversation with his head coach, Javier Mendez, his striking coach. Yeah. And Javier, and this was not for an interview, it was just us talking, but it wasn't necessarily off the record. And he basically said, look, in Buffalo, at the workouts, Daniel was very weak. He was very tired. He was very drained. And he said, look, I know you don't believe me, but I've never seen him like this before. Yeah. This is without a doubt the best Daniel Cormier I have ever seen. There are no excuses. And that, just hearing that from him, and of course coaches are going to tell you, what you want to hear, but for him to come out and say there are no excuses, this is the best he's ever been, it's the hardest he's ever hit, I am so excited. I truly feel like this is the best fight in UFC history. On paper, this is number 1 versus number 2, and I keep saying it because they won't say it, and that blows my mind, but it is. And after today, as opposed to yesterday, I was like, I need more. Today, I feel like I'm feeling it.
I'm with you on there. And one of the things that Tyler Minton, his nutritionist, said is that when he's not too overweight, you can actually feed him. He doesn't have to starve himself to make the weight. So he's actually been fed like an athlete for performance, not for cutting weight. And that's a huge deal. And it's so exciting that both of them are in phenomenal shape. Like you said, this may be the greatest UFC title fight of all time. It's the 2 best 205ers of all time, without a doubt. I'm starting to feel it now. I think the fans are too. They're kind of filtering out, but it's time now. We're ready.
A couple other things of note. This is Cyborg country. She got a massive pop, and she put on a show. Some capoeira. She is eating this up. The babyface turn, to steal a wrestling phrase, from 2009 when she annihilated Gina Carano, when she was the ultimate heel, where people thought that she was the cheater, all that stuff, to now where she is beloved by this, this crowd in Southern California, is truly a sight to see. I thought that she had one of the best workouts of the day.
I mean, she actually did a choreographed capoeira routine. It was crazy.
With a band.
She had the live music. I've never seen that before. The fans loved it. They love her here in Southern California. When I saw her fight for Invicta here, the crowd was incredible. They really love Cyborg. And to your point, she's come a long way over the years to beating Gina Carano, to the steroid test, where she was public enemy number 1 in a lot of people's eyes, and she's made almost a full turnaround now, a full 180, to being really one of the biggest stars on this card. Jon Jones got a great reaction, but I think Cyborg's was just as good, if not better, today.
Yeah, and also of note, Tyron Woodley, no nonsense. Did not want to talk about George St. Pierre, even shut down a question, said next question. He had a very intense demeanor, almost more than usual, I thought. And he usually kind of gets this way as he's cutting weight, but I thought that he had this laser-like focus. Did you sense that as well?
100%. He actually even moved on from a question after he said no more GSP questions. Someone asked about GSP, and Tyron Woodley said next question and moved right on. And usually Tyron Woodley answers everything. He is incredibly cordial with the media for the most part, but I think he really is. I think he's really locked in right now. And Damian Maia is the guy that he's fighting. He wants to talk about Damian Maia, not GSP.
Maia's a lot bigger than him. Have you sensed that?
I mean, I haven't sensed it. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. It's not a sixth sense thing. Yeah, I saw it. He's bigger, and that could help. I mean, Maia is like Woodley said, he's a different kind of wrestler. He's not going to just shoot a double leg. He's going to try to get him down different ways, even pulling guard, and that's going to be really the story of the fight, I think.
Final thing, prior to the open workouts, there was a media day with the other big fights on the card. Anything of note there? Anything that stood out as far as your conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Robbie Lawler for a little bit, and he seems to be in good spirits, but I had to ask him about Matt Hughes, of course, his longtime mentor, his former coach, someone who, not his coach anymore, but they're still very, very close. And Robbie Lawler was very emotional about it, and he said that normally Matt Hughes is by his side on these fight weeks, and it's true. We've seen it. Media day, if it's a Robbie Lawler fight, Matt Hughes is somewhere around, and we're talking to him, and he's mingling, and of course he's not able to do that right now because he's in a hospital in Illinois recovering from that terrible crash last month. So I mean, of course, all thoughts to Matt Hughes and his family. Robbie Lawler is kind of keeping it out of his focus, and after the fight, I think he'll go and he'll visit. He wasn't able to visit because, don't forget, this fight against Cerrone was supposed to be earlier this month. Right. So he was actually kind of bummed that the fight got pushed back because he had plans to visit Matt Hughes in Illinois, but because the fight got pushed back, he had to put those plans on hold.
Plenty more coverage to come. We are wrapping up from here in La Mirada, California at the UFC gym. Fight week in full swing. The best fight in UFC history is just about 48 hours away. And I don't say that, being hyperbolic or anything like that. This is a fact. Number 1 versus number 2. It has never happened, and in my opinion, it may be a very long time that the stars align, that the top 2 guys in the sport, pound for pound, are fighting each other for a belt in their respective division. This is special stuff. And oh, by the way, you're getting 2 other title fights and one of the deepest cards of the year. So, still to come, we got the official weigh-ins on Friday morning, then ceremonial weigh-ins, but check out our YouTube page, tons of interviews from today, tons of content, tons of photos on the site, articles, news and notes, tons going on here in Southern California for UFC 214. We'll say goodbye for now, but we will see you Friday morning for the official weigh-ins.